In the quiet town of Narborough, England, two teenage girls vanished without a trace, leading to a horrifying discovery that would shake the community to its core. It was November 1983 when Lynda Mann, just 15 years old, left her home in Narborough, looking forward to a night out with friends. But that night, a sinister act would change everything. The following morning, her lifeless body was discovered in a nearby field. She had been brutally assaulted and murdered. The news sent shockwaves through the small town, igniting fear and uncertainty among its residents. As the community grappled with the loss of a beloved local girl, they had no idea that this tragic event was merely the beginning of a dark chapter that would claim another innocent life just a few years later. But what investigators discovered next changed everything, leading to a groundbreaking yet controversial investigation that would forever alter the landscape of forensic science in the UK. Lynda was a typical teenager, full of dreams and aspirations. She was known for her infectious laughter and love for life. Her disappearance struck a chord with everyone who knew her. The search for Lynda became a community effort, with volunteers combing the woods and fields surrounding Narborough. As days turned into weeks, hope began to fade. Tragically, Lynda's body was discovered on November 21st, 1983, just a short distance from her home. The police quickly launched a murder investigation, but leads were scarce. The investigation faced numerous challenges, including a lack of witnesses and forensic evidence. Shortly after Lynda's murder, the police received an anonymous tip suggesting that a local man who had a history of violence might be involved. However, this lead would prove to be a dead end. As the community mourned Lynda, the police were left with few clues and a growing sense of urgency to solve the case before another tragedy occurred. As the investigation into Lynda's murder continued, the police began to focus on the possibility of a serial offender. Just over 2 years later, in July 1986, another tragedy struck. Dawn Ashworth, a 15-year-old girl, vanished after leaving her home in Enderby, a village near Narborough. The circumstances surrounding her disappearance echoed Lynda's case, raising alarm bells among investigators. The police were determined to avoid the mistakes of the past. They immediately launched a massive search operation, but it was too late. Dawn's body was found just a few days later, hidden in a wooded area. The similarities between the two cases were chilling, and the police knew they were dealing with a predator. As they examined the evidence from both crime scenes, they uncovered a pattern that suggested the possibility of a serial killer on the loose. But with no solid leads, the investigation remained stalled, leading to growing frustration and fear within the community. With both cases linked by a horrifying pattern, the police launched a groundbreaking initiative, a mass DNA screening. In 1986, this was a relatively new concept, and the authorities were determined to use it to identify the perpetrator. Over 5,000 local men were asked to provide DNA samples, an unprecedented move that brought both hope and anxiety to the community. But as the results began to come in, the police faced a significant setback. The DNA evidence pointed to a suspect named Colin Pitchfork, a local butcher with a troubled past. However, before they could apprehend him, Pitchfork had already confessed to a friend that he was responsible for the murders. In a shocking twist, it was revealed that another man, who had been coerced into confessing to the crimes, had been wrongfully convicted and imprisoned for years. This revelation would send shockwaves through the legal system, leading to questions about the reliability of confessions obtained under duress. In 1988, Colin Pitchfork was arrested and charged with the murders of Lynda Mann and Dawn Ashworth. His trial captivated the nation, as the evidence against him mounted. The DNA samples collected during the mass screening pointed directly to him, confirming what many had feared: a predator was lurking in their midst. The courtroom was tense as the prosecution presented their case, revealing the psychological profile of Pitchfork, who had previously been convicted of sexual offenses. The defense argued that the DNA evidence was circumstantial, but the jury was not swayed. On November 21st, 1988, Pitchfork was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. The verdict brought a sense of closure to the families of the victims, but it also raised important questions about the justice system and the methods used to obtain confessions. The impact of the murders extended far beyond the courtroom. The cases of Lynda Mann and Dawn Ashworth prompted significant changes in the way police approached investigations involving sexual violence. The pioneering use of DNA evidence set new standards for forensic science, leading to improved methods of crime solving across the globe. In the years following Pitchfork's conviction, he became a notorious figure, representing the failure of the system that had allowed an innocent man to be imprisoned for his crimes. In 2009, Pitchfork's case was revisited under new legal frameworks, but he remains behind bars, serving life for his heinous acts. Meanwhile, the families of Lynda and Dawn continue to seek closure, grappling with the loss of their daughters and the lasting impact of this tragic chapter in their lives. The murders of Lynda Mann and Dawn Ashworth serve as a haunting reminder of the fragility of life and the darkness that can lurk in seemingly safe communities. Despite the convictions and the changes to forensic practices, questions remain unanswered. How many innocent individuals suffer in silence while justice is pursued? What safeguards are in place to prevent wrongful convictions? As we reflect on this tragic case, we must remember the victims and the families left behind, forever changed by the events of that fateful time. The legacy of Lynda and Dawn lives on, reminding us to remain vigilant against the unseen dangers that can invade our lives at any moment.